Hello, my name is Dino, and I would like to introduce my academic project on the criticism of the film Pulp Fiction. It was actually the most influential film of the 1990s, and that is one of the reasons why I chose to do my academic project on this film. Before we get into it, I would actually like to introduce my own criticism on the film using the knowledge I've acquired from Harris's rewriting, and then I would like to get into Michael Wilmington's criticism of the film. He is a highly acclaimed Tribune movie critic, and his piece is called Bad to the Funny Bone. So I would like to introduce my criticism with the belief that this film is a classic. And when I say classic, I mean it by this definition with these specific terms. Literature is instead considered classic when it has stood the test of time. And it stands the test of time when the artistic quality it expresses, be it an expression of life, truth, beauty, or anything about the universal condition, continues to be relevant and continues to inspire emotional responses, no matter the period in which the work was written. So, a classic is something that's timeless. The film Pulp Fiction falls into the genre of a thriller. However, it doesn't follow the normal guidelines. It isn't based on high-budget action pyrotechnics or blood and gore, but rather its intelligent approach of language. It's also a very abstract movie because there's 3 different plots, 3 interconnected stories within this film. Tarantino really does a great job at putting these stories together because he's able to take stories and elements of different stories that have been told for countless years and depict them with such language that it makes them unique and fresh again. One of the main ways he is able to do this is through the use of archetypes, which are certain literary elements that everyone recognizes and are in every movie. One of the archetypes was the failed athlete, Bruce Willis's character, Butch. He was old, retired, and really didn't know what to do. You can see this type of character in the last Rocky movie or Invincible with Mark Wahlberg. Another archetype would be the 2 hitmen, Vincent and Jules, basically a dynamic duo. They were actually the anti-hero dynamic duo. They relate to Hamlet because he was a protagonist, and even though he was a protagonist, he was still a horrible person, murdering tons of people. All the other sorts of archetypes found within this film are the drug dealer, and even such scenes where Vincent takes care of Uma, the boss's wife. Just different archetypes seen in different movies in different ways. Literary writers use these archetypes because these are characters that are easily identifiable by the audience. Not much needs to be done to describe them. And then here, the language aspect of the film, in which some of the language may seem like it has nothing to do with the story, but in reality, it has all to do with it. For example, the foot rub versus eating out a girl. It's important to show this scene because it was in the beginning of the film, and it shows that Vincent and Jules are more than business. It actually shows that they're best friends. And since it's the first time we're seeing them in the film, it really establishes that early on and makes it easier for us, the audience, to connect. It also shows social commentary, their opinions on women.
But still, I have to say, you play with matches, you get burned.
What do you mean?
You don't be giving Marcellus Wallace's new bride a foot massage.
You don't think he overreacted?
Well, Antoine probably didn't expect Marcellus to react the way he did, but he had to expect a reaction.
It was a foot massage. A foot massage is nothing. I give my mother a foot massage.
It's laying your hands in a familiar way on Marcellus's new wife. I mean, is it as bad as eating her pussy out? No. It's the same fucking ballpark.
Whoa. Stop right there. Eating a bitch out and giving a bitch a foot massage ain't eating the same fucking thing.
It's not. It's the same ballpark.
Ain't no fucking ballpark, neither. Now look, maybe your method of massage differs from mine, but you know, touching his wife's feet and sticking your tongue in the holiest of holies ain't the same fucking ballpark. It ain't the same league. It ain't even the same fucking sport. Look, foot massages don't mean shit.
In my opinion. Well, in a classic, every part of the movie, every part of this film particularly, in Pulp Fiction, every part of it serves a purpose. As random as it may seem, it ties together. Unlike Michael Bay's films, where they are a bunch of high explosions and just a bunch of random action scenes that don't serve the purpose of the movie or don't tie into another scene. And I would like to compare Pulp Fiction to actually the music of the Beatles, because their music is still very much talked about today. Their music is classic, and this is so because it had meaning, it had social commentary, it was pivotal, and it was very significant to its time as well as to present day. Everything that has to do with the classic has deeper meaning, and its relevance will linger on forever. For example, we could still have conversations on whether a foot rub is the same as going down on a girl, and also the two hitmen, the drugs, the sex, and the violence. That will always be here, but the way Tarantino used the drugs, sex, and violence was in a way that was necessary, because each scene that involved those particular aspects tied into the next scene and related all the plots together and brought it all together in the end. They all support the story as a whole. One scene makes another happen. Now I'd like to get into Bad to the Funny Bone by Michael Wilmington, a highly acclaimed Tribune movie critic. Wilmington definitely comes to terms with the film, giving credit to Tarantino. He adds what he believes the setting brings to the senses. He describes it as a plunge, quote unquote, into a kind of retro nightmare fantasy land. This description adds up in the movie as the three plots are brought out in a seemingly out of order way that sparks thought of what is going to occur, brings a huge mysterious aspect to the movie. It is not meant to confuse, rather just to keep the audience engaged. Wilmington does an excellent job at forwarding the entire core of the film as well. He forwards the ideas of the film in such a simplified way. Considering the abstract feel of the film, I believe this is a great achievement. What is said by Wilmington as he describes the central theme is, quote unquote, the reclamation of an assassin, the resurrection of a whore, the honor among thieves, and the salvation of a maniac. So Wilmington essentially shows the truth behind it all, forwarding the fact that director Tarantino uses many movie cliches and puts them all together in Pulp Fiction in such a genius mindset with deeper meanings that they just have such more meaning. He gives these cliches such more meaning than any other film in the thriller genre really does, and this is purposely, of course. His approach toward this film is very much indeed civil. So when Wilmington criticizes the film, he doesn't bash it at all. But however, I believe his criticism lacked a countering aspect. Wilmington does not touch on the limits that this film may have had. He claims just his side and doesn't get into what could have been. Also, I note that Wilmington doesn't have an effective use of outside sources to use as examples and bring more perspective to his audience. And outside examples are really helpful just to get the reader to relate the other perspective as to what the movie lacked. But all in all, I stay with the mindset that Pulp Fiction can hold the title of a classic, and perhaps there was not a countering side to the genius film. So much props to Michael Wilmington and his charismatic and nonetheless thrilling critique of Pulp Fiction. I'm Dino once again, and this is the conclusion of my academic project.